What's up, everybody? Welcome to the End of the Bench Show, where the fans go. We had a wild not even first day of NBA free agency cast. Like, what's it been like? Not even
Yeah,
24 hours, like maybe 18 hours or so.
like yesterday at like 4 or something. I mean, we had started getting rumors that like trades had gone through and stuff and
Yeah, yeah,
pursuing, but I think yesterday around like 4, I think maybe it started.
yeah. I
Crazy.
think, yeah, man. It's like it was. There was a lot of stuff that happened, but it was still considered a slow first day, which is wild.
Yeah.
Like I think
The
there's
NBA
like it's insane. Then you
it,
have baseball that like hasn't even done anything yet.
like the NBA just like all of a sudden opens the gates and it's Black Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
Baseball is not the same way. I don't know. The NBA I really like that they do it all like this because then they stay relevant even in their off season. They only have a 2 month off season and we're still talking about the NBA
Yeah.
and having and every 5 minutes this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, and I think like it was a little slower in the fact that like we didn't get those like tweets at like 5:01 where we're
Yeah,
supposed to like believe that a deal happened in a minute because like the Bogdanovich shit that went down was really like scaring agents off. So like, all right, let's wait like 2 hours. We'll pretend we were on a Zoom to get this trade or signing done, and then everything started coming in at like 7, 8 o'clock. So
yeah,
it's like whatever. But I want to jump on to a few. Obviously, I have you on because I feel very strongly about what the Lakers did
yeah.
and
You really were
have.
out this
Yeah,
morning.
yeah. So I don't know if you want to start there. I know you're on a time crunch. So if you want to start there, and then if you have to jump, I could finish it myself, or if you want to end there.
No, I mean we can. I'm pretty good for a little bit, so
Okay. All
we
right,
could.
let's start there then, because you have the hoodie on and
That's
everything, and it's gonna bring me to like, it's gonna bring us to our big one that we may fight over a little bit. So
yeah.
let's start. I mean, Dennis Schroeder was the first move that they made. That was a trade. We didn't
Hmm.
really talk about that, so that's good. Wes Matthews, $3.6 million for a year, and Montrezl Harrell, 2 years, 19 million. So where do you want to start?
First thing, overarching theme is I'm confused by the free agent market because in a free agent market where like Jamari Grant is getting $60 million, Marcus Morris is getting $54 million, I'm
Mm-hmm.
confused. Lakers are getting these very effective players for such
Mm-hmm.
a discounted price. And I know the reason is ring chasing, and I
Yeah.
know that they have an opportunity to win rings, but you hear from like ex players that 98% of free agency is who offers you the most money. And I
Yep.
think Montrezl Harrell could have gotten more money from somebody else. I think Wes Matthews could have gotten more money from someone else.
Yeah.
And they're all choosing. I mean, Wes Matthews is getting paid less than JaVale McGee, and JaVale McGee didn't even play like any of the
Mm-hmm.
in the playoffs last year down the stretch.
Yeah.
And I know JaVale McGee had an option and everything, and that's why. But like that,
Yeah.
I would rather have Montrezl Harrell on my team than Plumlee. And
Yeah, I mean,
around the
trust
same
me,
price.
trust me. We will talk about the
It's,
Pistons, and we'll talk about Jeremy Grant too, or whatever. However, fuck, I have to actually say his name right when we get to him, so I have to look it up. But yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like Wesley Matthews, I think is clearly ring chasing, and I think that's completely acceptable because I mean, he already got his big deal. Remember, because he signed and then he
Matt,
like tore his Achilles or whatever.
wasn't it
Um,
a deal or pretty close to one?
Yeah, it was like I think it was like a restricted max deal, so it's a little different than unrestricted
Yeah.
max deal, but it's still a shit ton of money. And I think with him, like you base at the very least, he'll give you exactly what Danny Green gave you in the playoffs. But
I mean,
like he's gonna
if
be
he
better.
then boy oh boy, I don't want him on the team if he gives us what Danny Green did in the playoffs.
But that's at the very worst.
I mean, I mean, Danny Green did play well defensively, and thank you for
Yep.
bringing Danny Green. Do appreciate that. Um, but Wes Matthews in the playoffs was an effective shooter, and he's a two-way player.
Yep.
Uh, and he's at a position where the Lakers need. They don't have a good. They don't have really good guard play because their
No.
two best player. Well, their best player is a point guard.
Their best
Slot.
player is everything. Their two best players are literally every position, to be honest.
He takes the ball up. Ron takes the ball up every other time.
Yeah.
Um, but I
But
like
go
the
ahead.
West Matthews move. Again, I was surprised that they were able to do it. I know we'll talk a little bit more. I think the Lakers still need to add some shooting.
Yeah.
The team that was a weak spot of the team last year, and Danny Green, who is supposedly a good shooter, and
Yeah.
KD, who actually played really out of his mind in certain points of that Rocket series, and then played pretty well in the finals. Both leaving
Mm-hmm.
the. Now you've replaced one of them with Wes Matthews. Fine, we replaced the ghost of Danny Green with Wes Matthews. Now it's up to to get another shooter on the team. But I know we have a few more Laker moves to go through.
Yeah, but we'll stay there with the shooting. Like, I really do think the Lakers are going to do a sign and trade for Bogdanovich. I think KCP will be involved in that. And I think Kyle Kuzma is going to be involved with it too, because the Kings wanted Kuzma at the trade deadline. So the rumor was like, we'll take Kuzma, but for Bjelica. The Kings would send Bjelica and I think a draft pick. And the Lakers said, no, we want Bogdanovich for Kuzma. So I think they'll basically settle on, we'll take KCP and Kuzma, and you could take Bogdanovich. So you'll look at a scenario where Wesley Matthews basically turns into your KCP replacement because of his defensive ability. Bogdanovich will turn into just the sharpshooter and just an offensive upgrade over Danny Green. So like you replace Danny Green's offensive possibility with Bogdanovich, and you replace KCP's defense with Wesley Matthews.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would be a home run. It would be a home run.
You sign Dennis Schroeder, or you trade for Dennis Schroeder, who is still a very, very effective point guard in the NBA. I don't think he offers a much different setup than Rondo does, because obviously we all know what Rondo is at this point in his career, and this probably means Rondo's not coming back. But he's still a very effective six-man.
Yeah,
I think he'll probably start for the Lakers unless they want to do something with Caruso and have him start.
I think he starts.
I really like the Schroeder move. I mean, he also got to learn in back of Chris Paul for a few years. And everything about Dennis Schroeder I like in the NBA, and I think he's going to fit in really well with this team. He's not a guy who needs to have the ball every time. He's not a guy who's going to high volume shooter, because there is only so many touches when you have LeBron and AD on a team.
Yeah,
I think he's going to really help out the Lakers on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, I think Dennis Schroeder is definitely better than Rondo. Is he better than playoff Rondo? Like, I guess that's going to be like the next thing we. But Dennis Schroeder at least can play alongside LeBron a little better, because he can hit a jump shot.
Yeah,
like it's not going to look pretty at all. It's one of the most disgusting jump shots you'll see, but he hits them more effectively than Rondo. So I think Schroeder does start, and I think he just, I don't know, the overarching theme I see with like them signing Harrell, signing Wesley Matthews, getting Dennis Schroeder, is that they're looking for a very specific type of player, and those are all like pretty hard-nosed bulldog players. And I think that really works with LeBron and AD. I really think it does.
I don't know how to quantify it other than to say that they are hard-nosed players, because I was thinking the same thing. That's a good way to put it. Like all these guys, like, yeah, that makes sense. Or I want that guy on my team. Like, those kind of players. I'm shocked that Montrezl Harrell is willing to leave to go to the Lakers, especially after. So
is Patrick Beverley.
Yeah, well, after it looked like the Clippers and Lakers actually had some real animosity between them last year, for him to come over to kind of a huge slap in the face of the Clippers, I'm thrilled about it. I've liked Montrezl Harrell since he played at Louisville, so I'm a lot being a UConn fan. So watching Montrezl Harrell go to the Lakers, it adds a certain level of intensity that we haven't had. Even, when we were winning the championship last year, we didn't have that. Dwight Howard's kind of soft. As much as I like Dwight Howard, he's kind of a joke. Doesn't have that intensity about him. Montrezl Harrell will get 8 rebounds in a row and then, run back to play. I'm excited to see Montrezl Harrell as a Laker finally get to root for him instead of asking why a 6'8" guy has gotten 4 rebounds in a row. Davis.
Yeah, and I think it's important. Montrezl Harrell was rumored in the season to be one of those guys. He may get a max deal, and you got him for 2 years, $19 million. He's not worth a max deal regardless, especially coming off his bubble performance. But to get a guy with that kind of upside for 2 years, $19 million, stealing from your crosstown rival,
the biggest competition to the last.
It's almost like I don't give a fuck how bad you play. At least you're on my team.
Yeah, the fact that, he reminds me of Kenneth Faried a lot. Montrezl Harrell.
Yep.
It's
same player.
They look very similar. And Kenneth Faried eventually did lose his little niche in the NBA.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that you can't teach energy, and someone with Montrezl Harrell's energy, he's not the most talented player on the court, but he has than anyone else on the court. And as long as he doesn't lose that drive, in 2 years and $19 million, it's not like he can sit back on a big payday and be like, well, I'm good for he is good for the rest of his life. List
Yeah.
like at first problems, but he's
Yeah.
not going to sit back on that and be like, I got, all my money. He's going to want another contract after this, so he's going to continue to be that guy, which is why I like so much to bring him in, because you're not, he's not going to be complacent. Not that I think he has that personality anyway, but 2 years and $19 million doesn't allow complacency.
Yeah. And I think, like, I'll wrap up the Lakers with this. Like, they just keep getting guys that you don't have to worry about, like, saying, like, are you going to play hard for me today? Like, LeBron doesn't have to worry about Montrezl Harrell not giving max effort. Doesn't have to worry about Wes Matthews or Dennis Schroeder, like, because he doesn't have time for that. Like, if you're the guy who's like LeBron has to like get you going, like, you're just not gonna work well with them.
Important to remember, 100%. If LeBron has to get you going, that's why he gets angry.
He has to get you going. He'll get you out of town. So,
but it is also important to remember that the NBA is only on a 2-month off season, and for the Lakers on a 2-month off season, Lakers and Heat, and there's a good chance that LeBron and AD don't play a lot in those first few months, and you could, someone like Montrezl Harrell isn't going to be taking games off for load management.
No, he's not.
Like Dennis Schroeder, who's young enough, he's not going to be taking games off for load management. So the Lakers are also bringing people in because they know in those first 2 or 3 months, while they're not imperative in the NBA to win in those first 2 months, like college basketball or college football or the NFL. They also know that they can't dig themselves too deep of a hole where they're playing the Clippers in the first round or something like that, which I think the Lakers would like. But you get they don't want to give games away to her at the beginning of the season, and signing people like this, I think, ensures that they won't.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned Dwight Howard when we were talking about Kenneth Faried. So let's just go there.
A lot of opinions on Dwight Howard.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, Dwight Howard signed a 1-year, $2.5 million offer to go to the Philadelphia 76ers.
After saying he was going to the Lakers.
Yeah, after he tweeted that he was going to the Lakers and then deleted it. So,
which is weird.
I mean, only Dwight Howard. That's only Dwight Howard. That's such a Dwight Howard thing. I do have a lot of opinions on it. To be fair, I thought JaVale McGee opted out of his option.
Little confused on the terminology of exercise his option.
Yeah, they have to work on that, honestly. And then when I looked it up, there were other sources that worded he picked up his option. I was like, that's such a better way to say it. I mean, come on, you got to help out the idiots that run podcasts. You know what I mean? Come on.
I was like, oh, they have 3 backup centers. They would have 3 backup centers. No, they wouldn't have 3 backup centers. I'm like, JaVale exercises option. He's like, exactly. And I'm like,
yeah. Cass just let me roll, and he let me get there. If we were together, you'd be looking at me like you'll get there eventually. Yeah. Come on.
We're just saying it.
But I think what we both agree on is and I got text last night because Chris Perkowski, who comes up on the show, I think he has to be a Sixer fan because he texts me every time the Sixers do something.
You should ask. Quick text could probably solve this whole.
I thought he was a Pacer fan, so I was I'm always very confused. But I talk about any team. It doesn't really matter to me. But look, and we're all saying the same thing. I think Dwight Howard is a good depth piece for almost any roster in the NBA. I am pretty intrigued by the overlap there's going to be with Howard, Simmons, and Embiid, because obviously you're going to try not to play them all at once. But
3 people can't
it's not never going to happen. Yeah. So I worry about that. And I mean, if the Sixers don't run more pick and roll, what's Dwight Howard going to do?
Nothing. And you can't run. It's hard to run pick and roll with Ben Simmons anyway, because you can just lay back because you can't shoot. Here's my fucking thing about Philadelphia. I loved Philadelphia 76ers back in the day because I love Joel Embiid. I think he's the best big man in the league, and I don't think particularly close.
Yeah.
They got rid of Al Horford. Yeah. They signed Al Horford, and we were like, oh, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Al Horford, we're going to have 2 big, slow men on the court that can't do anything. And then this offseason, okay, they got rid of Al Horford. They traded him to Oklahoma City, right?
Yeah, OKC for Danny Green, and they traded 2 picks also.
So they traded him to OKC. So I'm like, finally, Philadelphia cut their losses. They understand that they can't fucking have 2 plotting big men around the court. So what do the Sixers do? They go and pick up another plotting big man around the court. This one, at least Al Horford can stretch the floor a little bit. Dwight Howard, joke from 3. I mean, he literally makes jokes about him shooting threes. the fact that you're bringing him into the fold, like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
You're literally just doing the same thing over and over again. I guess it's less of a financial hit than Horford was. Like, so sure, they learned a little bit of their lesson, but I'm sure they would have offered Dwight Howard a max too if they could have.
I don't think they would have offered from max. I think it's a little different than Al Horford because like you were paying Al Horford to be a much bigger part of your team than you're paying Dwight Howard to be. So like you can't like with the money Al Horford was making, like you can't really bring him off the bench. You could say Dwight Howard, you're a backup center. You will play when Joel Embiid does not play.
And that's what he did last year, Dwight.
The problem with that is what happens when Embiid gets hurt, and then Dwight Howard is your everyday, every minute center.
I mean, you're going to have the same problem that every team has had with Dwight Howard when they've expected this much. He's going to he's still a defensive force. He's going to be wildly unpredictable offensive. He'll have games where he scores 20 points and games where he scores 4 points.
Yeah.
And then disappointed because he's going to, that's just how he is. LeBron got a lot out of Dwight this year because he threw him a lot of alley-oops. I think Philadelphia is stupid. All I would do if I was Philadelphia right now is I would just put shooters. I know Danny Green was the first thing. Them letting go of Redick was an absolute joke. I know that was last year, but Philadelphia around the 2 people on that team that can't shoot with people that can shoot, and I don't understand bringing in a player like Dwight Howard unless you're only going to make him the center, like if he's not going to pretty much play when Joel Embiid plays.
Yeah. And I mean, they did trade for Seth Curry on draft night, so that'll help them a lot. I mean, look, like Doc Rivers being the head coach and Daryl Morey being the GM plays a huge role as to why Dwight Howard is a Sixer, I have to imagine. Yeah. Doc Rivers, I mean, everywhere he's went, a focus of his offense has been having a lead ball handler playing a lot of pick and roll, whether it was Rondo with the Celtics, Chris Paul with the Clippers, and whatever the fuck they did last year in LA with Kawhi and PG, that kind of went out the window. But like, if you're telling me that you're going to install a lot of pick and roll and you're going to have Ben Simmons be the lead ball handler like he should be on that team, and you're going to have Joel Embiid actually play like Joel Embiid more often than not, and you're going to have Danny Green in one corner, Seth Curry on the wing, you're going to have Tobias Harris chilling. Like, I can get behind that. My problem is that I just don't think it's going to work.
I don't think you can play basketball with Ben Simmons because he can't come. You could just lay back on that screen. Like,
But in fairness, and I thought about this last night when they signed him, like, you could say the same thing we're saying about Ben Simmons is the same thing we were saying about Celtic Rondo.
True.
And right. Celtic Rondo was an elite player.
Very good in the pick and roll.
So, I mean, and Ben Simmons is bigger. He could bully you. Rondo couldn't bully you. He just get blow past you. So, like, it can work. I just don't know if, like, the problem is that Brett Brown ran a system that leads us all scratching our head as to how this pairing can really work. Yeah. And you paid Tobias Harris way too much fucking money is the other problem. But, I mean, whatever.
And you chose Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
Or Jimmy Butler just didn't want to be there, which I think is actually.
I think it's the other way. I think they didn't want Jimmy Butler there, and Jimmy Butler then said, "Okay, I don't want to be here if you don't want me to be here." Which is fair.
Jimmy talked a lot about the Miami Heat about the culture they have there. I think he had his eye on them for a while, but unless we bring Jimmy Butler a Michelob Ultra, we're never gonna know.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, we're on the same page. Like, I understand why Dwight went there. Like, if he thinks that's his role, like, and he wants to play with Doc and Daryl Morey's always liked him, like, I get why the Sixers made the offer. I just don't know. And my other thing is, like, why did he take it 3 hours into free agency?
Yeah, he got
$2.5 million. Like, what are you doing? You could wait.
Well, that's what we're talking about too. Like, I would have liked to see the Celtics get into the mix because the Celtics for a while talking about how they have great wing players in Tatum and Brown. They have a very good point guard in Kemba. Mm-hmm. And now, like, one of the last pieces they need is that kind of stud big man. We were talking, on this pod not last year during the playoffs about how I wanted them to give more minutes to Cantor, and I know Cantor just got traded.
That was really sad when they got rid of Cantor last night.
Why?
Like, Cantor really loves Boston. Like
Oh,
he was doing a lot of work in the community. Like he really was trying to make Boston like his home, and like you could just tell like with everything he tweeted out, like he was pretty upset.
well, at least he gets to go back to a place that he's really comfortable with too. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, he deserves whatever team is going to give him actual playing time is what he deserves because he's still a quality NBA player and he doesn't get the minutes on the Celtics.
the Knicks are the team that fucked him. He was like a top 20, up like 30 player in the league that year, and then they decided not to play him because they were trying to lose down the stretch. I mean, and then about him after that was like, well, we're not going to play Cantor because it's got into people's head. But what I was saying is, I think, you know, that's how desperate the Celtics were to find a big man last year. And with the Celtics, I mean, I know their championship window is wide open right now because Brown and Tatum are so young. But like, I don't know. I think the NBA is wide open right now. And I think this is, you know, these are the years that you attack and you go get that Dwight Howard and you bring him in because, come on, the Celtics could have easily matched 1, 2.5 and gone for, you know, higher than that to bring him in.
Yeah, and I think like eventually maybe the Celtics would have. I think right now the Celtics are hyper focused on getting Miles Turner to Boston from Indiana. I mean, go this. I guess I didn't know if we would jump here, but we'll jump here now. Like Gordon Hayward obviously turned down his 1 year.
Explain that?
Yeah, he turned down a 1 year, $34.5 million player option.
Yes.
It is inconceivable for 99% of America for you to say, oh yeah, I turned down $34.5 million guaranteed for 1 year because I don't want to be in Boston. I don't fully believe he doesn't want to be in Boston. I just think he believes he is more than a fourth wheel at this stage of his career, which, you know, may be true. I think he really wants to play in Indiana. It's where he's from. He went to Butler. But yeah, I don't know why he turned down, because even you're not going to get $34.5 million again. Like, you're just not.
That's my thing.
Like, so do you hate it that much where you say like it's not worth it for 1 year? Like, I don't know. If that's true, the Celtics do an amazing job of keeping shit in house, because that should have been a story for a lot more than now.
And the way I was thinking about this when I was doing it, like baseball terms, like when Giancarlo Stanton opted into his contract, we were like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He can't make that money on the open market. So that was my whole thing with Hayward. I was like, oh, there's 0% chance he opts out because he's not a $34 million. Maybe he thinks like he's watching his career not waste away, but like he's watching his career, like every year he's another year older. Obviously, that's how life works. But he's getting older, and he's like, I am more than a fourth wheel. I can at least be a second. You know, I pair me with a second player, and maybe we can make a run, and I can still go get another max contract. But you're betting a hell of a lot on yourself to turn down $34 million, because in reality, he's probably a 2-year. Well, I don't know. The Pistons might give him $600 million, but probably a 2-year, $27 million, $28 million player right now. And I mean,
I mean, I don't know. I think it's either he goes to the Pacers or he comes back to Boston. Like
what's he doing? He needs to sign a max contract if he comes back to Boston.
I don't think he will. I mean, right now with the Pacers, it's looking like 4 years for $100 million. It'd be a sign and trade. The problem is that the Celtics want Miles Turner. I think the Pacers are willing to give Miles Turner, but the problem is that it can't just be Miles Turner. And that's not like, as like a Celtic fan thinking return wise, it's like money wise, like it literally can't just be Miles Turner. So reportedly it's either Doug McDermott or Aaron Holiday. The Celtics laughed at Doug McDermott, which I don't fully understand why. The report out of Boston is that what they really want is Turner and Oladipo, or Turner and TJ Warren.
Well, Turner and Oladipo, no.
The problem is, Cass, and I talked about this with the Kevs, Kev Jones and Big Kev. What are they doing on that team? Like,
probably, what are they doing?
like, okay, so like Oladipo.
Why don't you ask Brikowski?
No.
He's a fan.
Oh, that's true. I may ask him. What are you doing? Like, because what's like if you get Victor Oladipo or TJ Warren and you get Miles Turner, what's your end of game lineup? Because in my mind, that means Marcus Smart isn't on the court, and I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah, because he's your best defender by far.
Right. So it's like,
Because
and
then you
like
would
Victor
like,
Oladipo's not coming off the bench because he's already proving to be a little bit of an asshole.
yeah, and you
And
can't bring Brown or Tatum off the bench
no, I mean Tatum, you just offered a max. Like you're not fucking bringing him off the bench.
at the 5 down the stretch.
But you can't because then what do you do with Miles Turner? Miles Turner is a legit rim protector and can spread the floor. So it's like
That's the person you could sit though out of those 5. I don't know what you're doing.
I
Hope one of
think I think honestly the Celtics are kind of dumb for laughing at Doug McDermott, and I think Aaron Holiday is also the player. Like that's fine to me. Like I don't need to me Danny Ainge getting Miles Turner is already a home run.
yeah.
I don't need him to then try to hit the ball 600 feet. You know, like I just need someone on the bench that I could rely on because I don't think the backup guards the Celtics have are really ready. So at least Aaron Holiday can come in and contribute.
Yeah. I can't imagine. Oh, it seemed like he didn't want to go to he doesn't want to be in Indiana.
That's the only leverage that Boston has in
Yeah.
asking for him because they know he doesn't want to be there. But like, why would he want to be in Boston? Like, he's not gonna. And if you're smart, you're pissed off if you bring in Oladipo.
Oh, you're absolutely livid because you've done nothing but prove that you're a winner on that team through bad years too. You know.
He's the whole culture. That team's drastically different without Marcus Smart. He's not the most talented player, but he's drastically different without Marcus Smart.
Well, I don't understand what Hayward's doing, but it's definitely set up some stuff for Boston to have to really change.
Gordon Hayward's doing what players do. He's trying to force his way to a team he wants to play for. Like I can't blame him. I think he's stupid for turning down $35 million.
Yeah.
And he's using the Knicks as leverage from everything I hear, which is like fantastic because Knicks fans are like freaking out that they may get Gordon Hayward. And I'm like, you're not going to get Gordon Hayward.
Or Gordon Hayward will go there and you'll realize that Gordon Hayward isn't the Utah Jazz Gordon Hayward anymore. Yeah. And
but you know what's crazy about it is Knicks fans are freaking out about it. But like Brandon Ingram's a restricted free agent. You have $40 million in cap space. Like, why aren't you just trying to like
oh my God. Anyone who gets Brandon Ingram is going to be so happy with him on your team.
I don't understand like why. Like, I don't even think Pelicans have offered him anything yet because I think they have to like wait for it to be matched.
I think they have to. Yeah, they have to wait for something offered, and then they can match it or not match it.
But if you're the Knicks, like the Knicks last offseason signed like 75 power forwards.
Yeah.
Right. So like, just throw fucking money at Brandon Ingram. Unless you're really thinking you're going to make a trade for Westbrook or John Wall or you want to sign Fred VanVleet to like $30 million.
All those moves for the Knicks, don't make sense. Bringing in Russell Westbrook to the Knicks is an absolute – do not do that. If you're a New York Knicks, please like, you should be rooting so hard against that because there is no way in hell that Russell Westbrook on the New York Knicks has a happy ending.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know.
John
I
Wall,
could see it though.
I mean, yeah, that's the problem. That's what I'm worried about. It'll be New Fashion Week every day. But much as I like John Wall, like he hasn't played like in a long time. Like
yeah, well, John Wall is the move that like you can't make until you see him play coming off the Achilles.
Is he John Wall or is he like a broken down version of John Wall now? So like
broken down John Wall is better than anything the Knicks have had at point guard for a very long time.
But you can't give up all your first round picks for the future if it's broken down John Wall. Like
I think assuming that's what it would take. Like I don't know if John Wall requested a trade, so like who knows what it's gonna be. You know, I don't know.
See that Wizard team with John Wall and Bradley Beal both healthy, but I don't know if we'll ever get that chance. And it's also kind of a bitch move for John Wall to be like, I want to trade after he's been out for 2 years. Like now that the Wizards, his value's at all-time low.
I think he only requested the trade because he was reportedly offered to Houston, and he's probably just like butthurt about it.
I mean,
that's my opinion.
I would be mad about going to Houston right now too.
Yeah, but at least he's shown that like he could play with an elite guard beside him. You know, like Russell Westbrook hasn't shown that.
But he hasn't done it in 2 years.
I know, but I'm just thinking like, because that's like the way like the NBA is going, right? Like it's not just like 2 elite players, like 2 elite wings or 2 elite guards. So at least like if you're building a team under that guys, like John Wall has at least proven that he could fit in because he plays the same style as Westbrook, right? He's not that much better of a shooter.
Yeah, I don't think he's a whole lot better of a shooter. I think he's less of a volume shooter and he's more willing to – I mean, I know Westbrook has good assist numbers, but I think he's more willing to share the ball.
Yeah.
I like John he's healthy, but like what was in? Didn't he like tear his Achilles or something?
Yeah, he tore his Achilles walking up the stairs in his
Yeah,
house.
like yeah, sure.
Which,
I'm.
I mean, I don't want. I mean, that sucks, but whatever.
I would bet so much money that John Wall did not tear his Achilles. I am a normal human being, and I've never torn my Achilles walking up the stairs. I can barely
Yeah.
function in society, and you're telling me that John Wall, an elite basketball player, no, John Wall tore his Achilles and then walked up some stairs. That's the story.
Probably.
Like, no, that's
Probably.
right.
All right, let's I didn't think we would go with the Knicks, so that's probably my fault. Let's run through quickly other signings because I want to spend more time on the Pistons and I don't have that much time. So, Goran Dragic, 2 years, $37.5 million to the Heat. Good on the Heat,
Yep.
like to keep paying him. Because like when he went down, there was legit concern that like Goran Dragic just missed like a pretty big pay window.
Yeah.
So I think good on the Heat for doing the right thing. It makes a lot of sense for both.
Down there, and I really like everything they're doing. Even the quotes from Jimmy Butler or Dragic after, he's like, Jimmy Butler said he's going to kick my ass if I signed with another team. Like,
Yeah.
just funny. Like, I just like the culture they're building down there, that they like take care of each other. Like, I think the Heat are going to be good for a while, which is going to be weird because like I don't think they're going to be have that elite player. So I like every Dragic move. Bring him back. That team was different in the finals when he wasn't healthy.
Yeah, it's also like the first sign of respect that Goran Dragic has gotten from a team.
Yeah.
Because like he's been undervalued his whole career, and this could still be undervalued. But De'Aaron Fox on his max extension, no surprise there. I think it's like a pretty good sign that he wanted to go back to the Kings, but then like he could also request a trade during this 5-year window. So like, he probably will. Like people sign this deal because to guarantee the money, which obviously extremely smart. But yeah, like, do I think De'Aaron Fox plays 5 years for the Kings? No.
Unless the Kings are in the playoffs every year.
Which every year they won't, because they won't be in the playoffs next year, and probably not the year after that. So,
trade after year 2.
Yeah. Rodney Hood, 2 year, $21 million to stay with Portland. I like that because he was really playing well before he got hurt.
But again, Rodney Hood is worth more money than Montrezl Harrell.
Well, I mean, the way the NBA is, like, I mean, he's a wing. He could shoot.
Montrezl Harrell just won 6th Man of the Year. This is what's been confusing me.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it. I mean, it's not that much of a difference. Montrez was 2 for 19. Hood's 2 for 21. Like,
I think Montrezl Harrell is twice the player that.
I think that's tough because I think they're completely different.
I mean, Rodney Hood wasn't relevant for a while until, there were times where they could not play Rodney Hood, certain teams.
Yeah, but not this Blazers team. The Blazers team needs him to play.
Yeah.
Joe Harris got paid. 4 years, $75 million to stay with the Nets. I don't like. Joe Harris is a very good shooter. He's a little more well-rounded than I think people realize, than maybe even myself realizes. Almost $19 million seems a bit much, but it was probably going to demand that for him to stay.
Yeah, the market probably was going to dictate that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm shocked that all these players are getting so much money. It's a great sign for the NBA with the amount of revenue coming in, and the sign that the owners are willing to dish that out for players. But this has the offseason written over. Remember that offseason with like the Lakers signed Mozgov and Luol Deng?
Go ahead, finish.
This is what this offseason reminds me of because, and I mean, I will talk about what the Pistons are doing, but you're giving some of these players that have never performed all this money, and eventually you're going to be really, I think, regretting it down the stretch.
Because like the teams have to spend the money. They can't go into the season with $40 million in cap space, so they have to make these decisions, and like that's why you get overpaid in free agency because teams literally have to spend the money.
Yep.
I think it's tough to bring this up with Joe Harris because I think like Joe Harris is close to warranting that. Like
I wasn't necessarily coming at Joe Harris. I was just saying that the revenue, equating it to anything else, Joe Harris is a 5th best player on the Nets, and if you even said the 5th best player in baseball on the Yankees, wouldn't be Yankees would be getting $20 million, but you get the 5th best player on a team normally doesn't get paid like the 1st best player on the team,
Did you
I don't know what that says about Brooklyn, whether they think they have the financial capability of still bringing in a Harden.
Yeah, I don't know. If anything, I don't think they'd want to do this, but Joe Harris's money works a little better where you could like put him in the trade now and maybe you don't have to give up Levert and Dinwiddie.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't think you want to trade Joe Harris. I mean, he's
But you
top
can't.
5 shooter in the NBA.
Oh man.
No, I mean, that's why I don't think Harden gets to the Nets, because I don't think at the end of the day, like, I mean, unless KD is like, you do this or I'm going to request a trade right now, like it's not worth it. It's not worth blowing up your whole fucking team. Like, we've seen this story before.
I mean, I agree. I don't.
It's only worth it if Kyrie's in the deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, but Durant probably wouldn't let that happen. But I don't know how you bring in a Karis LeVert or how you keep Karis LeVert on that team still. Like, the more I think about it, I know everyone's talking about, like, there's only one ball. Karis LeVert proved to be like a stud this season, and putting him beside Durant and Irving is great. But 3 players that play pretty similarly on the same. I mean, I don't know if that would, I don't know how that would work. I love what the Nets. I know that's not what the focus is here, but I love going with that team.
Yeah. Did you see Jordan Clarkson's deal?
Yeah, 4 years, $60 million.
52. 4 years, $60 million was Malik Beasley, who we're not going to talk about because I refuse to give him airtime. Jordan Clarkson, $13 million a year is a little much, but the Jazz need him because the Jazz have no bench without Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah, but like this is what confused me about the NBA. Jordan Clarkson, like a few years ago, like in Cleveland, was like unplayable. Like they did not play him. And now all of a sudden, like you can have these career revivals in the NBA that you just can't have in any other sport, which always just throws me off.
Yeah.
Why, like how they allow like a Rodney Hood. Like last I knew about Rodney Hood, he was unplayable in Cleveland. So it's like, well, now like you have Rodney Hood and he's all of a sudden $220 million player. So good for Jordan Clarkson. He played out of his mind in the bubble. Great shooter, a good slasher. It seems like every tattoo he adds, he becomes a little bit better of a player. I'm happy for him. And I hope young enough where he can continue to have those, make strides still. He's not, it wouldn't be surprising if he continues to make strides, but
I just think 13's too much. Like if you were to tell me it was 4 years for like 44 million or like 4 years for 40 million, like I'm like completely on board. But 13 million to just, be my sixth man, like I don't know. Maybe that's market, but like I don't know.
Yeah. I completely agree. That again, that the market's so inflated this year. I think that we're having a hard justify these contracts.
All right. Let's finish it up by going to a team that you should sit up for this one, Ken.
No, sorry. Jeter's being annoying for the last hour. Just can't let her out.
The Detroit Pistons, I never thought there are a lot of teams like when I started this podcast, like I have like a list of teams I never thought I'd have to talk about. The Detroit Pistons were like pretty close to the top of the list. And honestly, I think I'm well warranted because I'm not going to talk about them for good reasons right now. Like that's for shit sure.
Yeah.
Like First of all, you said the Lakers can't have 3 centers.
The Pistons can have 4.
The Pistons have 7 centers. 7. Literally 7. I'm going to pull it up because I looked it up before and then I went on a walk and I lost the fucking page.
Did you go on the walk because you were mad?
Oh, yeah. I was pissed off. I was like, I can't believe it. All right. So they have Tony Bradley, Dwayne Dedman, Thon Maker. He's trash.
Love Thon.
They have their beautiful free agent signings of Jahlil Okafor. They classify Mason Plumlee as a power forward. That's not true. He's a center. So what's that, 5 or 6 that I just named?
Yep. And then Jamar, who played like power forward for the, he played big for the Nuggets.
Who was that?
Jeremy Grant, Jamari Grant, whatever.
Well, Jeremy Grant we'll get to also. So Mason Plumlee signed 3 years, $25 million. God bless Mason Plumlee. He was a Duke player, so like I'm always gonna love him.
Yep.
Well, that's not true because I don't like the next person that we're going
You
to talk
hate
about. But 3 years, 25 million is a lot, especially when like I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't think Dwayne Dedman is good. I don't think you should be paying him $13 million a year. I think he was traded. I don't think the Pistons actually gave him that deal. Like, you have Tony Bradley. He's 22 years old. I'd rather take the chances on him. Like, I don't know. Mason Plumlee clearly took this deal because he knows he's not going to get $25 million anywhere else over 3 years, which is fine.
like
Not going to blame him.
hours of
Yeah.
Mason Plumlee acting in the first 3 hours. Good move. Dwight Howard, not a good move. Mason Plumlee, good move.
Yeah. Jaleel Okafor, I mean, he's 24 years old, but we really have to stop giving him fucking contracts in the NBA.
He seems like he's like, I would have guessed he was 28 or 29.
No, he's 24. He was yeah, I mean, he was the rookie class with Tyus Jones, Justice Winslow.
Seems like NBA for
yeah.
so long, and he's been underwhelming for so long.
The problem was the NBA changed as soon as Okafor came to the NBA. Like, if it was still the old days and, you know, you needed a back-to-the-basket guy, like, he probably could have had a career. Well, I mean, he's having a career now because he's still getting fucking paid.
Yeah.
It blows my mind, but whatever. He's on a 2-year deal. He's not going to – he does nothing for a team. Like, he does nothing. Does absolutely nothing.
Rebuilding – like this is what I don't understand. The Pistons don't have a plan. I think that's evident. They don't even, you know, Blake Griffin's their best player. Which
legitimately, you could argue Derrick Rose, but we'll say Blake Griffin.
Listen, if this was 5 years ago, you'd be thrilled to have that problem. That you'd be arguing Derrick Rose or Blake Griffin. Griffin has a year. Derrick Rose is a nice sixth man right now. He has to be the best player on the Pistons. They don't have a plan. Now they're going with this. You know, it reminds me of what the Knicks did with all the power forwards of just adding a bunch of players and hoping stuff fix. But all these players, we already know what they are. It's not even high players. You're just throwing money at players that we already know what they are, that are good role players. Like, sure, if you're the Lakers, go get a Mason Plumlee, and he could fit into that team. Go get, you know, if you're a championship level team, go get some of these guys. You know, if you're the Bucks and you want to bring Jaleel Okafor off the bench, sure, go for it. Then I would be like, it might work. You're the Detroit Pistons. You're not going to win.
No. Yeah, like they don't have a plan. You brought up the Knicks, which, like, I think you read my mind when you brought up the Knicks. Like, the Pistons had a very good draft. They drafted Killian Hayes. I love Killian Hayes. But this is exactly the problem that the Knicks had when they drafted R.J. Barrett. Like, they draft R.J. Barrett, they sign every power forward imaginable, and they have no spacing. So what is R.J. Barrett going to do? He literally can't do anything for your team.
Yeah.
What is Killian Hayes going to do? Because he has to play like R.J. Barrett. He's an effective driver. He's an effective pick-and-roll player, but he's not a shooter right now. So what spacing are you giving Killian Hayes? The answer is you're not. So, I mean, what are you doing? Like, they had such an effective draft that it's almost like, you know, like how when things are going like too well in your life and you're like, I gotta self-sabotage and fuck something up. That's what the Pistons just did last night.
The king of that.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what they did. Like they were developing a plan and they were like, nah, fuck it.
Go throw that money at Brandon Ingram. Go get anybody else. Go throw that money. I know Brandon Ingram probably wouldn't come and be matched or whatever. Go throw that money at anybody else. Like, go throw that money at Montrezl Harrell. I'd rather Montrezl Harrell than Mason Plumlee. Like, go throw the money somewhere else and at least, you know, get guys that play hard. And you have to start the culture, and not that Mason Plumlee doesn't play hard. I'm not trying to say that.
If there's anything he does, it's play hard, to give him credit.
But you got to start the culture of winning, and bringing in players like this is not going to ever start that culture of winning anytime. So just not bringing in winners and players that have been proven to be able to turn teams around. Go get the right guys instead of going to get just guys. And I'd be very frustrated if I was a Pistons fan because none of these moves excite me.
No, and then, like, we didn't even bring up – well, we've brought up Jeremy Grant numerous times, so you're trying to say his name right. But, like, to give him 3 years, $60 million
it's just lot.
Look, I know, like, he's played on pretty good teams, so maybe his career numbers are, you know, a little deflated. But, like, the dude averages 9 points in his career. Like, what are we doing?
He weighs like $120, soaking wet. Like,
I mean, he's 26, so if you're really, like, confident in your in your development and you think like you could throw $20 million to a guy in his prime who maybe hasn't like reached his peak, like, okay, fine, I can give you the benefit of the doubt there, but like to sign all of these players and then you lose the one player that like had a glimmer of hope on your roster in Christian Wood, it's inconceivable to me. I don't understand why they let Christian Wood leave.
This is just to go back to Salami Grant. I don't I don't
man.
like this is where I want to be inside a front office. Were they bidding against someone? Was
No.
somebody at $18 million a year and that's why they had to give him $20 million a year? Like at least a Jeremy Grant signing like is a high upside guy. Cause like you see Jeremy Grant and you're like, that guy can probably be pretty good at basketball. He's stupid athletic, he's stupid long. Like, you know, he has the ability to be a good basketball player, you know, eventually. I mean, he's on his way, but the overpay, that's just like, I just don't get it. You're never going to get $20 million out of Salami Grant for 3 years. Like it's just, you're never going to get that value back for him. So
yeah.
I personally I can't understand what the Pistons are doing. And to go from championship contenders last 2 years ago with Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond, I'm kidding.
Oh my God. I mean, it's incredibly frustrating. Like, I don't know. I don't know how much you know about Christian Wood because he's like, I know he's not like super well known, but like, he was basically on his fifth team in 5 years, I think, when he was with the Pistons. Like, he was undrafted. He was supposed to be a first round pick coming out of college. He was a 2-year college player, and then he became undrafted for whatever reason. And basically, just every team was like, no, just no. Like, he was like 35 pounds overweight. He was like 15% body fat. He worked on his body, transformed himself completely, and it was literally like probably on his last chance with the Pistons when he went there. And he turned that into averaging 13 points a game off the bench because, you know, God forbid you don't start Blake Griffin, you know. And there's a lot of like hope that like, and he's like, I think he's like 24, 25. Like there's a lot of hope that like he's just starting to like really play basketball in like in this new form. And you're like, nah, I'm all set. I'll sign Mason Plumlee, Jahlil Okafor, and Jeremy Grant. Like I'm all set.
What was his contract? You went to the Rockets, right?
Yeah, 3 years, $41 million, so 17 a year.
Okay, so they got Plumlee for 25, and then who was the other guy? Okafor for how many?
It was 2. I think he makes like $1 million a year or something. Like it's something small.
But okay, so
1.7 a year.
Or Okafor and Plumlee money pretty much in turn. I mean, you needed some more, but you could have done the Okafor and Plumlee money to start, and then given Grant $10 million a year, which was what he probably worth. Yeah. And you could have brought back Wood.
Christian Wood just should have been your priority, and then you figure everything else out. Because right now, like your roster is terrible.
Yeah, no, they're not interested in rebuild. They're interested in rebuilding, but they're rebuilding with old guys. So I don't really get what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, because like it doesn't even look like they're trying to trade Blake Griffin. Like I don't get it.
I mean, you should trade Blake Griffin for anything that walks right now.
Yeah, I mean, like to their credit, like maybe they can't. Like maybe he's untradeable. I mean, like he's making like $35 million a year, so I would definitely believe that. But like,
I would be doing anything Griffin, and I'd be trying to sell Rose high because Rose should be going to a contender right now that needs. You know, how many contenders need that guard coming off the bench, and he could definitely that. And he could be that guy that is, you know, this Jamal Crawford where he comes off the bench and he scores 20 points a game.
Yeah,
that's
I'm right there with you.
Probably get not 2 first round. You probably get a first and a second round pick for him right now.
Yeah, I think during the season they were looking for a first round pick and teams were like skeptical on it, which like I get for like a rental with his injury history. Like you probably don't want to do a first round pick, but like I don't know. I mean, he's not back. He'll never be fully back to what he was in Chicago, but he's a very effective player.
And he could be that person that pushes you over the edge. If you're like a Bucks team and you're close to like being a champion, it could be that last final push that does it for you. I would be willing to take that. If you're a win now team, take that risk now. If it doesn't work out, sure, that first round pick's not going to be a great first round pick anyway. So take the risk now. Go sign someone like that, or go trade for somebody like that. And you know, the Pistons have some weird theory going on about life, so I don't know.
I agree. I'm still on Jeremy Grant, to be honest.
Rami, Salami, Jeremy.
Like if you go on Basketball Reference, like I don't really like looking at these player comparisons, but like they compare him to Jay Crowder, and like in my head, like that's perfect. And I don't know, would you have ever paid Jay Crowder $20 million a year?
No, I would never even let. I don't think Jake Crowder deserves $20 million for his career. Like, not like
Well,
I just don't. I mean, this is what I'm saying. This offseason reminds me of the year that Timothy Mozgov got a max contract and Luol Deng signed for like
yeah,
$80 million, and the Lakers are still paying him, I think. And like this is what this year reminds me of, because the market is so inflated that they're giving these massive contracts out to players that don't deserve them because they're just just for the hell of it.
yeah.
Doesn't And then the Pistons are just taking it to another level, so they're playing a different game.
You know what's annoying? This is gonna be the last point.
Okay.
We spent like all season like thinking about like how great it is for Fred VanVleet. He's going to be unrestricted. He's like the best free agent out there if you don't count Anthony Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Ingram's better, but like, and he's just not signed. Like, of all the news, like we couldn't get the one big news, and I hear he's probably just going to go back to Toronto, which is so like anticlimactic.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see him go to – well, he should not go back to Toronto because he should not be a backup anymore. But I'd love to – I would – that's a move for the Knicks. I would like to see – you can bring him in and, like, you can build around him. And he's, like, a good player to build around because he's not going to – he's proven that he's willing to do what it takes to win. And, like, to bring in culture to the Knicks, I don't know. I think I'd fallen more in love with that match. The problem is he's going to get a max contract as a player who doesn't deserve a max contract.
Yeah, I think he could, like, during the course of the contract, he could probably develop into something closer to worth it than he is now. But like, I don't know, if you're the Knicks, like, do you want to take that chance on yourself? Like, I don't think so.
Got to take that chance. Well, yeah, don't take it. Ever. But if you're the Knicks, you also need to start bringing in players that are going to make it more of an attractive. Stop trying to bring in LeBron and then be like, oh, now you got to start smaller, get your foot in the door, bring in a Fred VanVleet, and then surprise some people and win 30 games next year. And then you bring in a Durant or someone like that eventually, because you have to make it a more – the Knicks just don't understand. They're like a 3 and they're trying to date an 11. When they like go
Aren't
for
we all?
Go for go for the 6. Go for the 6 right now, and then maybe you could get your confidence up to the 10.
Hell, go for the 2.
Yeah.
Build some confidence.
That's Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant max contract would have been the Knicks going for the.
Yeah, honestly, like I think Knicks fans should be happy, and I really didn't think we were talking about the Knicks at all. I think Knicks fans should be happy that we aren't like shitting on them after the first day.
Like we aren't. Like I think James Dolan woke up and is like, "What do you mean we let Jeremy Grant get away?" This morning, I think that's what James Dolan was thinking this morning. I think that's why the Knicks are a joke of a franchise.
Yeah, but I think they're heading in the right direction. I really do. I really think they're getting there.
Praying for Knicks fans.
I hope so. Like New York's not fun during basketball season.
No, so this will be this year with Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's true.
I know we have to go pretty soon, but the Steven Adams trade.
Oh yeah, you want to talk about that? I forgot.
Because here's my thing. You especially have praised Oklahoma City for collecting draft picks. They just keep piling them up. Steven Adams is still stupid young, which always blows my mind. He's like 26 years old, I think.
27.
Which blows my mind because he looks like he's 62. And I think that Thunder just fell in love with stockpiling draft picks that they're like, oh yeah, this and then this and then this, and then they're gonna look around and be like, wait a minute, why did we trade Steven Adams? Because the Pelicans pick with a healthy Zion, I think they'll match any contract that BI gets. I don't like that they traded Drew Holiday because I thought Drew Holiday with that, if you bring Drew Holiday in, I think the Pelicans are like the 6th best team in the West if Drew Holiday's still on that team. But the Pelicans are probably going to be competing for a playoff spot, so that is going to be like a mid-first-round pick for Steven Adams. And wouldn't you be thrilled if a mid-first-round pick turned into Steven Adams? So I don't know why you would trade, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why you would trade that to begin with.
Yeah.
Because you have that mid-first-round pick and probably better than with the Steven Adams.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Steven Adams is like, I don't know how he works next to Zion. Like, I'm trying to think of it on the fly here, but like, I don't know. I guess someone who's watched a lot of Zion Williamson
Yeah.
in his life, like, I still think he's at his best when he's just like right next to the basket. Like, he's not a threat on the perimeter right now, and Steven Adams is definitely not a threat anywhere besides right next to the basket.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of like a, I don't know, is it kind of like a, at a very West scale, is it kind of like Joel and Ben?
They're just two guys that aren't going to make sense together.
Yeah, because and like Steven Adams is not like a guy you have to worry about making sense because eventually like you'll he's not a franchise player, but like,
but he also is a player that like where Ben and Joel I don't think are interested in figuring out. I think Steven Adams figures it out because that's just like kind of what he finds his role and then he fits in and he's going to bring the thing I love. He's going to bring so much toughness to that Pelicans team. And Pelicans team, which is just now learning to win and just now learning to be good with that core, like you bring in a guy like a Steven Adams, like I could see the Pelicans going on a hell of a run and being like, well, we brought in this Steven Adams and he brought in a level of toughness that we hadn't had and practices harder and he was banging around Zion and stuff like that. And like now this team, and like, if you bring BI back and you have Steven Adams, Brandon Ingram or Steven Adams is going to push the shit out of Brandon Ingram and finally he's going to a little bit, which is why if you keep Drew Holiday, like you keep Drew Holiday on that team and you have Lonzo, Drew, BI, Zion, and Steven Adams with Redick and Josh Hart coming off the bench, like I think that's like a top 5 team in the West.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear everything.
I really like the Pelicans team. And this Steven Adams move to me like is like, oh, we're a win now team. And the Drew Holiday move was like no, we're not a win now team. So I know they got like 50 first-round picks for him, so it might have been hard to turn down.
Yeah, I hear and look, I mean, like they also got like Eric Bledsoe and George Hill in the trade, and like that could still help a win now team. Like,
but how many?
But not to the extent that Drew Holiday does. Remember, like it's not like they just got picks. Like they did get quality NBA. Well, I mean, Eric Bledsoe, depending on his mood, is a quality NBA player. But
is Bledsoe okay with coming off the bench?
I don't know. Eric Bledsoe's barely okay with like being a basketball player. So I don't know. But like with Steven Adams, like the Pelicans, like they want to play fast. Like, can Steven Adams play fast? Like I don't know. I don't know if he can.
I think Steven Adams figures it out whatever he does. I think Adams is a player where he comes in and you don't have to worry about the fit because he makes the fit work. Like that's just everything from him.
I just hope that like this wasn't a blindside trade for Steven Adams, like because he's really like he's the last piece of like what the Thunder were like when they had Westbrook and Durant and Harden and Ibaka and Steve. I mean that 5 is fucking unreal. But like he's almost like the franchise player for the Thunder at this point. So like I hope he got the like respect of at least like a heads up. Like he's not a guy where like you probably like say, no, I'm not gonna trade you. I think he knows that, but like I hope they gave him like just the heads up and like respect that he, in my opinion, deserves from them.
Like, but don't also Oklahoma City fans deserve to be able to see what? Like, I get it. The future's great. The future's so bright because we have 72 first-round picks. Where every pick in next year's draft pretty much is coming to the. But like, don't the Thunder or fans like also kind of? I know it's a business, so fuck all of that. But like, don't they kind of deserve to be able to see one exciting, fun franchise player? Like, I don't. Like, I know they have Shea still, and we'll see what happens with him next year and another year of development. But I don't know. I'm just. It hurts that Steven Adams moved because I just think he was so much of the Thunder's identity for the last 10 years or 8 years or whatever he's been in the NBA.
Yeah. I just think that like. First of all, this is the last year of Steven Adams' deal, so like maybe they just weren't going to bring him back.
Yeah,
which is fair because you just traded for Al Horford, right? So Steven Adams this year is making $27.5 million, which is good for him. Yeah. Al Horford is also making $27.5 million this year, and next year he's slated to make 27. So like, how much are you going to pay?
I know
your front court, so like
front court $54 million in this NBA,
right? So like I get it from that sense. I think it's just like
Yeah.
I don't think you needed to trade for Al Horford. Like, I think that's where it really comes down to. But like, if, whatever.
Because you could have kept Danny Green, and
Yeah.
what would happen with that? I mean, Al Horford is a more talented player, but
Yeah, but you're on the hook for 27 next year and 26 and a half in 2022, 2023 when he's 36 years old.
Yeah, where if you bring in a bunch of first-round picks, that that destination might be really attractive, kind of like the Nets did with a bunch of first-round picks, and you bring or not a bunch of first-round picks, but they made it a really attractive destination with the kids, and then the big guys came in. I mean, you could see a World Thunder do that, and now they're handicapped by Al Horford. And it's like, well,
yeah, it's like, do you want to be handicapped to Al Horford? Like,
yeah, because like Danny Green's only making I think $10 million for this year, and then he's done I think too.
Yeah, I think he's a 1-year deal.
I think he was on the second year of his deal with the Lakers, and that's where they traded him on.
Got it. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I mean, that was a trade that was like that was weird, but like I guess it makes sense when you look at like Horford's contract and like I mean, Steven Adams going to enter unrestricted free agency at 28. Like he's probably going to get another
like pretty close to max.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you get like the way the NBA is now. I don't know if you give Steven Adams a max deal, but like he's going to get. The Pistons. The Pistons honestly should have waited to sign fucking Steven Adams instead of spending all this money.
The fact that someone just did a trade for a center without them.
Yeah, they're probably upset.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, I think that's it. I think we touched on a lot. We touched on a lot that I didn't think we were going to talk about. My laptop's almost going to die, so it seems like a pretty good spot to end it. Good pod. A good last minute pod too.
Always been a New York Knicks pod. Always will be a New York Knicks pod.
Yeah, I think it's the first time I ever talked about the Knicks ever.
Yeah, probably one of the last times, unless they get good. Knicks get good. Figure it out, Knicks. Like there's no gonna be good.
I would love for the Knicks. Oh, Jake from John Boy.
Yeah.
Every single move that was signed last night, Jake was tweeting at the New York Knicks. The same thing. He said, "Good job, all caps, New York Knicks." I don't know if he was sarcastic or if he was like genuine about it.
Like ignore the move, like not.
Yeah.
I know,
but whatever.
Like them not bringing in like Westbrook or I like Obi Toppin, so I want the Knicks to be good. I want Obi Toppin to be special.
Yeah. We'll wait and see. I think Obi Toppin has some potential for the Knicks, but I think it could also go really bad.
Don't say that too loud.
I think it can go really bad, and I'm optimistic that it doesn't, but I think Knicks fans have to be ready.
Doubt when things can go bad for the Knicks, they do go bad.
Yep, that's basically how it goes. But anyway, Cass, I appreciate you coming on last minute. I got to jump into another episode. You have to go celebrate Friendsgiving, so be careful, be safe, and I'll see you later.
All right, boy. I'll talk to you soon.